immortal ideas that ravish generation after generation after generation. Can you say that you have helped your brother, or have you killed him by creating a beast? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tory Rush, and I will be your master of ceremonies for this evening. I must say that I'm truly overwhelmed by your presence this evening, and my heart is filled with joy and happiness to see that so many of you have come and traveled from so far to join with us and to share with this evening's occasion. I'd also like to make note to all our guests, friends, and family members that are here for the first time that this is our very first family banquet. Our family has been having gatherings for many years. It was the idea of the past generation to bring about more family unity in order that we may grow together, not only as a family, but as a black community. And this idea has been passed down throughout the generations. The family reunion has become a steadfast tradition that many of us look forward to each year, the second weekend in August. This year's banquet came about from a collection of ideas from a younger generation wishing to add to the tradition of the family reunion and to help establish more family unity. I hope that you will all receive a positive message from tonight's affair and that this will be an enjoyable and memorable occasion for all of you. At this time, I would like to call on Roy Cooper Jr. to lead us in a word of prayer, and then after that we will partake upon the food that has been prepared by Deputy Restaurant.
We come again giving thanks for this day of this life. We ask that thou would bless those that are here, bless those who have come afar. Bless us as we gather the beginning of the celebration, things that are so dear to us. Father God, we ask that thou would be with each one of us. And we ask that the food that we were going to partake of, bless the hand that prepared, that we will go strong and do things that are pleasing in thy sight. God, after we have done all that you designed for us to do on this side, we ask for a peaceful place in thy kingdom. Christ shall come.
Let's see now, to make this go kind of smoothly, I'm going to ask that you go and roll.
They grow for a pound in 3 months.
Okay,
It's a pleasure to have this opportunity to introduce to you tonight our panel of guests. Seated, starting right here, is Angela Cooper from Kennett, Missouri. George Cooper from St. Louis, Missouri. Carla Cooper from Kennett, Missouri. Janice Hall from Haytown, Missouri. Stacy Cooper from Nashville, Tennessee. Lisa Rush from Aurora, Illinois. Alex Cooper from Haytown, Missouri. This time I would like to call Janice Cooper, who will give you the welcome.
Good evening, everyone. To all family and friends from far and near, very heartfelt welcome. I hope and pray that the unity we practice will live forever in our hearts. The warmth we share, the excitement we feel, will culminate in the dream seed sown so very long ago. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the annual Cooper Black Hill Petite Family Reunion. Thank you.
Now I'll call upon Stacy Cooper, who will do the recognition of guests, family members, and friends.
Hello, loved ones. I'm going to ask those people who have, this is their first time, I'm going to ask you to stand and introduce yourself. Tell what side of the family and who your parents are. Would anybody like to start? Got some twins in here we need to introduce. There they are. That's their first time. Or
The second time.
second time. Come on. Anybody else? It's their first time?
Yeah, this is my first time around Gilmer from Los Angeles. This is my mother, Virgil Young, and the cousin of Kate Cooper.
All right.
Hi, it's my first time. My name is Ada Lucille. This is my daughter, Nicole, with the Madison, Wisconsin, and Ella Cooper's daughter.
Is that it? I want to see the twins. I want to see the twins. That's one right there.
These are Calvin and Hillary Moore, children of Sheila Cooper Moore and grandchildren of Joel and Kay Cooper. Billy.
Anybody else? Okay, anybody that's been here, that hasn't been here in the last 3 years? Okay, we'll turn it back over to Tori Rush.
I'd like to call upon Tamiko Rush, who will give a thought for the occasion.
Called Thoughts in the Garden. Today, as I worked in my garden, I thought what a fine thing it would be if each of us could pluck the weeds from our garden of memory. All of the harsh and ugly thoughts and every unkind deed could be tossed aside, and the barren spots placed like fresh new seed. And I thought if we could visualize the memories to grow out of the seed we're planting, we live differently, I know. We have more time for things worthwhile, the finer things, I'm sure, and we plant the seeds of a friendly smile, where the frown will be room for. We give less thoughts to life humdrum cares that seem to have no end, and we learn the interest of our bears when interested in a friend. And oh, I know if we could see, as true as stars above, what tomorrow's memories would be, we have more time to love. Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to call upon our guest speakers who will be talking about the importance of family, family history, a tribute to Roy and Louise Cooper Sr., and family in today's society. Unfortunately, Shelley Cooper could not be here tonight, so Uncle Alex Cooper will incorporate the importance of family along with family history, and also William Cooper could not make it here tonight, so he will be taking over that. I'd like to call upon him first.
Well, I can guarantee you one thing, you won't have no problem here. Secondly, when I look at the young people and I think of see and share with them what they're doing, I'm mindful of the poem Flanders Field by John McCrae, the last stanza of that poem, which say, to you with failing hand we throw the torch, be it yours to hold on high. If you break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field. So we're passing the torch on to you, and we're seeing that transition. And then next, I shall share with you a combination of works that I've done over the years in a soliloquy of hope. And this will be a challenge that, next year, to see how they have grabbed this torch. I want each one of them to repeat. This comes from the works of Josephus, the noted Jewish historian, Omar Khayyam, the great Persian poet, John Donne, poet laureate of Ireland, the book of Ecclesiastes, and it ends with A Requiem of Death by William Cullen Bryant. So I'm taking smithereens of both of those. See, I like the way the young man started off. He was just, moving around. A survey of nature in the skirt of a beautiful proportion first determined man to imitate the divine plan and to sturdy symmetry and order. This gave rise to societies and birthed every useful art. The architect began to design, and the plans he laid down, being improved upon with the passage of time, have produced works that have become the admiration of each and every age. The lapse of time, the ruthless hand of ignorance, and the devastation of war have laid waste and destroyed many valuable monuments of antiquity upon which the utmost exertion of human genius have been employed. However, the moving finger right in heaven moves on. Not all your piety or wit can go it back to cancel half a line. Not all your tears can wash away a word of it. But no man is an island unto himself. Each a piece of the continent, a part of the whole. Whenever I hear of death, it diminishes me all the more. For no one knows for whom the bell tolls. So remember now the Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, now the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun or the moon or the stars be not darkened, and the clouds return not after the rain. In the day when the keeper of the house shall tremble, and strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are feeble. Those that look out of the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the street. When the sound of the grinding is low, he shall rise up by the voice of the bird, and all daughters of music shall be brought low. Also in the day when they shall be afraid of all that is high, and fears shall be in the way. The almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper become a burden, and desire shall fail, because man goes to his long home, and the mourners go about the street. However the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl broken at the fountain, or the wheel at the cistern, then the dust shall return to the dust as it was, and the spirit unto God who gave it. So live. Live that when thy summons come to join the innumerable caravan which moves to that mysterious realm, where each should take his chamber in the silent hall of death. Thou go not as a quarried slave scourged to his dungeon, but sustained and soothed by the unfaltering trust. Approach that grave like one who wraps the draping couch about him and lies down to pleasant drink. Now, with that type of background and the hopes for the future, I should like to share with you a bit about what it is to be a family. I'll share with you some anecdote saying that has been incorporated in the Cooper family. And the fact is that we have a full structure. We'll start with the Coopers, and this year we're centering around the Coopers, but that family was made up of Cooper's Petites on my maternal mother, grandmother, and grandfather's side. And then on my mother's side, we had Hemp-Hills and Blacks. You see, these were the pillars of strength, that the four posts. But I was reminded by a group of Native Americans who came, and the symbolism of the four was such a Native American custom that I did not realize that was a natural type of occurrence in my expression, which it is. The Hemp-Hills, the heritage there, the lineage being African American, white, and Native American. And I would think the information that I had to me is from the Cherokee Nation. I stand corrected, is that not right? Chris, is that basically Cherokee or Choctaw? What is the nation of the Native American that lineage came from? But I do know, and we can address that later on, I do know on the Cooper side, the Cooper came from Irish stock. The original Cooper was George Cooper. And the maternal grandmother was referred to as Granny Lake. Now, information is that she had come originally from South Africa, and she spent some time in one of the English-speaking Caribbean states, that being Barbados, and then she came to Carolina from there to Mississippi. Now, to give a bit of truth to that is the fact, to validate, I should say, this type of information. Granny Lake was a school teacher trained as such. She was a person of tremendous statue, according to my father's description of it. And he said that small man didn't have much to say in her presence. So we'll leave it at that. But be that as it was, if she left South Africa and went to Barbados and then came to the United States, she then there had to be some clarification as to being a school teacher in South Africa with the apartheid system being. But she was a person of color. And one of the characteristics that can substantiate these is those who in the field of medicine, I think the term is keratosis, where you have hair growing in the ear and on the arms, which is a characteristic of people of India and not Native American. So that was very pronounced in Uncle Pip and my dad and even in Uncle Alex. So that could give some justification that was the way that the flow started. Another interesting thing was that the background in the Coopers came out of 3 different occasions. George Cooper was white and he begat Tone Cooper, and Tone Cooper begat Alex Cooper, and Alex Cooper begat Roy Cooper Sr., and Roy Cooper begat Roy Jr., and I'm the fourth from the Alex line that have come on. So family names is a benchmark when you're going to look at your genealogy. Look at family name. The name Thomas Cooper has been one that have come forth and been in the Coopers. The name William, and the William came from both sides. My grandfather had 6 brothers and a sister and a half brother. In that generation, there was Levi, Alex, William, Walter, Jenny, John, Mary, and a half brother named Eddie. And that was basically that side of it. So out of that side of the Cooper tradition and family, there was one thing noticed. The males were dominant. There were lots and lots of men in the Cooper family. And then, so Dad only had one sister in the group of boys with Uncle Tom, Dad, Uncle William, Uncle Jesse, Uncle Ellie, Uncle John, and Uncle Ernest, and Uncle Bernie. So, and then when it came to our generation, but interesting enough in our generation, and on up, 20 was never a real identifiable occurrence. But when it hit our generation, better watch it. That was Dal and Carol Jean, which was twins. That was Stacy and Tracy, girl twins. And that was Alvin and Calvin, all boy twins. So 20 then, after about 4 generations, began to crop up. So some of the little Coopers of about 2 generations, that might see the twinning habit crop up again. The name William also came down from the Petite side of the family and the Cooper side of the family. So the name William, Alex, and Tom have been names that have gone on. One interesting thing about the structure of the family, here again with the punitive slave laws that occurred after slavery in the mid-60s, if a child was born of a free man, he was not enslaved. But if he was born of slave parents, he was slave. So it's very possible if you would look, and again, I'm going to throw you some mathematical types of structures that you can go about looking at your family. A generation is 20 years. An active part of a generation could go across 40 years, you know. So if we look back and you count the generation of Alex and generation of Tom, that would be 40 years, you know. Generation of Roy and Alex is 40. Generation of Roy and us, and together somewhere in the early 1800s, which would make sense in as much as slavery finally became established after 1793 of the invention of the cotton gin. You see, so it kind of gives a little reason and rationale to, you know, where up. There are some other characteristics that was very pronounced in the family. Now I've heard these, and so you might not have naturally would be fond of mates. So women was a kind of a foregone conclusion that they were they had no problem in casting an eye on an attractive woman. Now some of the early Coopers didn't attend church much at all, but they would frequent on the church ground because that was where the women of talent and taste assembled. Some other characteristics of that generation, they were avid hunters. They liked to hunt. They were close to nature. They fished and hunted. And you know, just parenthetically, tomorrow there'll be 16 different forms of meat at the celebration, you know. And included in that will be raccoon and pheasant and chukar and quail and squirrel and turtle and fish and, you know, the whole, that's been a part of our heritage. You know, so if you say, well, they want to go to fishing, as a matter of fact, my grandfather, whom I bear his name, he allegedly killed a cow and fed his fox dogs. Killed a cow to feed his fox dog. And he didn't eat no fox, you know, he just hunted for, he was that type of a sportsman, you know. That was part of the value. My brother Roy carries a mark of having climbed up in a tree, shaking a possum out, so the dog would fight. Broke his leg. So these are strongly ingrained into our history, you know, and it's not uncommon that a Cooper would drive 200, 300, 400 miles to go hunt, like pheasant hunting. But that's been a part of the history of the makeup. Another thing that's had some characteristic in the history of the family, some of the early Coopers was not adverse to taking a good stout snort of John Barleycorn. You know, they kept it. You know, they kept it for medicinal purposes. You know, and then if things didn't go right, they could stop of it, you know. So if you do see that, that's part of characteristics, you know. But they were all independent things. And the one thing that I think my father used to say most of the time when we began to disperse from the roost was, he never worried about any of us as long as we were thinking. He said, as long as he's thinking, I'm not worried about it. And I can share that to you individually and to you as a group. When you condescend to someone else's thinking, cease to think for yourself, you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble. And you know, another thing that was characteristic in the family was the ability to verbally dialogue. My grandfather's pet expression, let's talk about it. If you can't talk about it, you're not going to do anything about it. I had the experience of going to Mississippi the first time into the area that the Coopers came from. And I went there as a guest or as a consultant with Tuskegee University. And I was checking out a small co-op. And the information that I had gotten from Tuskegee was that the manager of the co-op wouldn't let you in. And you know, I was on my usual role saying that I haven't seen a woman so big and bad and terrible and so ugly and other things that I can't talk to, you know. And I didn't know at that time that was the lady, you know, she was standing next to me. And she said, where did you come from? And I said, well, did I say anything like upset anybody? I'm just passing through. And the grandmother said, wait, boy, what be your name? And that really struck me. And I told her who I was. And these were the expressions. She said, Lordy B, you might be Little Alex's granny, Ken. Are you? Well, I had heard that they referred to my grandfather as Little Alex, and that he could play a violin. And he played it wrong side. He played it with the left hand, but the bass string was to the inside, not to the outside of it. And I say I am. And then she said, don't you say anything because he's your kindred. I said, no, you can raise a little hell. I said, you know, you got it in your blood. So, but that went on. But through the years, it has been a family tradition to engage in those types of activities that could better serve people and service people. As a result, the base stock had been in farming. And farming was a provider type of services for the newly emancipated blacks, and it continues to be an opportunity and a broad base that you can go out into specialty type areas. So many of the early Coopers were farmers, small farmers, and teachers. And later on, we began to have some diversification in that. And so basically, the structure of the family, and I can say this with all the brothers here, from the time I was about 5 years old till I was about 12, I fought up and down the line because I was the fourth in the pack. You know, when the kids go to talking about, and I hear the grandkids got a little problem in school, I can't say anything. Now, I didn't have no problem in school. But by the time I was 5 years old, I had cut off 3 cat tails and 2 dog tails. So I was happy. And matter of fact, the belt that my daddy got married in, I tied that on the cat. We tried to get him to cut his tail off, you know, but he got away from the crowd. But, you know, we were very active. And last Sunday night, I had a chance to draw some chicken. And my granddaughter was watching me, and I told her as I was drawing the chicken that, oh, I got my hand on the edge side, and there's an egg here. And she was just elated. See, I don't believe it. And when I extruded the search and brought the egg, she was just flabbergasted. So we have been encouraged as a family to be curious, to raise questions, to ask questions, and to seek solutions. And, you know, with that type of a statement, I conclude. And I say this, and I've made this speech many, many times. If I had, and it was in my power so to do, I would select the same parents that I had. If I had the power, and it was in my authority so to do, I would select the same community to grow up in that I grew up in. You see, I'm just a country boy, and I grew up in a place called Ingham Ridge. And today and tomorrow, when all the spirits and thoughts and things are going, Ingham Ridge will again be a welcome to that group of boys and girls that live there on and struggle and sought and dream and build. And today we can say, you know, we feel confident that what tomorrow is because we know from whence we came. Thank you very much.
Verses 1 through 4. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment and promise, that it may be well with thee, that I may live as long upon the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonishment of the Lord. For my tribute to Roy and Louis Cooper is 3 stories that I'm reminded of. One is of courage, one is of a never quit spirit, and one is of never forgetting your relatives. The first one, Alec had already touched on, and deals with my Uncle Roy. One night they went out coon hunting. And to coon hunt, you have to be at night. It's a real bad circumstance. But on this circumstance, my grandmother told me, she said, be extremely careful tonight because I'm feeling kind of antsy. So on that night when they went out, Roy climbed the tree like they said, and the limb broke. He broke his leg. But to top that off, the road that they traveled down was real muddy. The car was stuck already. And Billy, Joel, as they call him, and T, they didn't know what to do. They picked up Roy, they put him in the car, and the car was stuck. So Billy looked at T and said, man, we got to get him out of here. You know, Mom was worried. So out of the blue, I guess they prayed or whatever they did. They got to the front of the house, and Grandmother was waiting on the porch. She told him, she said, Lord, Roy, what has happened to Roy Jr.? Something extremely wrong right now. The other point that I like to make is one of a never quit spirit. It was back, I guess, in the middle 50s. Billy was playing football up at Lincoln University, and around the homecoming time,
was the time that he asked his parents to come up and sing because he had excelled in sports. But this day was not going to be his day. When his parents arrived up there, he was told that he wasn't going to start at this game. So that upset him very much. And he told his mom, he went to his mom after the game was over. He said, Mom, I feel like quitting. She looked at him and said, Billy, don't quit, I'll pray on you. And before his third year of college was over, he had got 3 scholarships. He had got scouted by 5 different professional teams. And before his third year was over, he had been drafted by the Denver Broncos. And the other point I'd like to make is when Charlie Cooper first became a doctor, his picture appeared in Jet. And George Cooper again, I don't remember his last name. George down in Louisiana, he saw that ad. And by a process of elimination, he wrote to Jet Publishing House. They gave him the address of Charlie Cooper in Hope Summit. When they got the letter, Bobby read it, and she sat down to her grandmother. And when grandmother got it, she read it to Roy, and Roy broke down and cried. He said, that's Cousin George. I hadn't saw him in over 40 years. So, Aunt Octavia was down in Louisiana at the time going to school. And Mike went down there to pick him up. He was at a barber shop, and he had told all his friends that he had relatives that he knew about, but he didn't know their whereabouts. So when Mike pulled up by the barber shop, the first thing he said, there walks one of my cousins, or one of my relatives right there. By picking him up, talking and everything, and making it back to the family reunion, Papa again cried and said, George, it's been a long time. I don't ever want to be without you again. So this is why we have a family reunion. I see my Uncle Ralph out there. I'm proud to see him here. I hadn't seen him in a while. But this is family unity. Thank you.
It is a known fact that African Americans are relational people. That is to say, we like to congregate. For instance, if I go into a classroom or I'm going to play, and I see a brother or sister sitting in there, then I'll naturally go sit next to him because I can relate to him or her. We share our relative likeness, and I feel at ease. Thus, we congregate this weekend to celebrate our family reunion, and we should feel at ease. Most of my life, people who I've met, I have known, and some who really don't know me at all, say, you are the spitting image of Jewel May. According to my immediate family, they not only say I look like her, but I'm dramatic as well. They see parts of my aunts and me, for we share our kindred. Because of our kindred, we can relate, for we're relatives. I want others to say the same things when my nieces and nephews come of age, that they are the spitting image of me. I want others to say that they'll know we are a family in the same way, that when that great getting up morning comes, they'll know we're Christians by our love because we'll have been one in the spirit. And they'll know we are family by our love, by our bonds, by our kindred spirits, by our relationships. In most of my presentations, I use symbols because in this symbolic society, we have symbols to represent just about all that we encounter. There's the alphabet, which allows us the channels for written and oral communication. There are stoplights, which we are taught when we see them, we know what to do. When it's red, you stop. You wait patiently. When it's gold, you yield. Proceed with caution. And when it's green, you go with full speed ahead. The stoplights can represent 3 passages of life. From birth to infancy, we are thrust into a world we must stop and find our niche, our place. The world is red. We must wait patiently and depend on others for guidance, nurturing, teaching, feeding, most importantly, love and support. From infancy to adolescence, we must examine ourselves, slow down, pause, to further find out what it is we're looking for. This is the most crucial developmental stage. We're curious, but we mustn't yield to temptations. It is at this stage that we unconsciously yearn for guidance, nurturing, teaching, feeding, most importantly, love and support. At this stage, all the world is gold. We must yield and proceed with caution. The last passage to life is adulthood. Not everyone is blessed to make it this far. Therefore, it is an honor. And it is at this point that we have found our place. Now it is up to us to give back the guidance, the nurturing, teaching, feeding, most importantly, love and support that protected us. All the world is green. We must go with full speed ahead. And every once in a while, we must look back over our lives, re-examine those things which we have encountered. Every once in a while, we must stop and smell roses. We must yield and pause for the cause while we still accelerate to achieve. I can remember as a child hearing adults talk. Took me down my yielding road to childhood. When I was a child, I can't remember what it must have felt like not having civil rights. I can't remember the segregation that my forefathers fought to overcome. But unfortunately, I can't remember the segregation that occurred within my own family. I can remember being told about the wonderful times after the fact. For whatever reasons, I was excluded. I was stopped from being near my family. I was in dire need of nurturing, teaching, feeding, most importantly, love and support. I can remember not being allowed into my family's home for no apparent reason. I can remember not indulging in conversation for fear of not saying the right thing. To a child, this situation is a horrible thing to have happened. You're traumatized, yet you go on and respect those adults who tried so hard to separate, to segregate, to break up the kindred bonds, to tear up your family. And the older that one becomes, the more one becomes aware of things, of ignorance. And you begin to feel sorry for those individuals. So you set out on a quest to know everyone in your family, in spite of what others have attempted in the past to separate. You begin to recite as a positive mantra. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I thought as a child. I reasoned as a child. But when I grew up, I did away with childish ways. And as you do away with childish ways, even all those horrible experiences you remember as a child are set free because you remember the importance of family. You remember the ultimate sacrifice that Christ made to loose the shackles, allowing you the chance of everlasting liberty. This is 1992, the second year of the last decade of the 20th century. We must start anew. On the weekend of June 26, 1992, I realized the importance of family. I realized a lot of things for the first time. My sister's first kids had their first birthday. This is the first time we've organized a banquet in Vegas night. And it was during the planning and implementing of these ideas that for the first time I openly communicated and associated with several of my cousins. If banquets and theme activities can further bring our families together to close those gaps of communication and open the hearts and minds to love and understanding, then God has blessed us. To me, this is the importance of family in today's society. I need you as much as you need me. Last year was the most difficult year of my life thus far. I didn't know if I'd graduate, I didn't have a job, I was as deep in debt as I was tall. And I didn't know what to do, but you, my family, were there for me. Not only were you there for me in the times that I call at midnight just to hear you say, it's okay, and that crying is not a sign of cowardice, but a sign of triumph. You were there for me, my family, for I could focus upon the good times that we shared on the farm, and I'd laugh. I remember trying to smoke cigarette butts and playing red light, green light. Even then, stoplights were important. I can remember grandmother and papa. Whatever memories I have, whatever memories you have, be it memories of millions of mosquito bites, we must intertwine our memories, tie them in knots, to make a strong rope that can lift up each other and pass down to the next generation to pull them along and to guide them so that they'll know that the Cooper family is an extended family and that we're all family by our love. My generation, my challenge for you is to uphold family unity. For those intertwined memories are the tied bonds that pull us together. My challenge for you is to uphold family unity and to not be a red or gold light when it comes to family. You don't have to stop or proceed with caution when you're around family. You may not like what I say or what I do, but I'm going to go ahead and say them anyway. And I can make mistakes around you. You should love me the same. My generation, don't let the lack of communicating destroy and burn up the intertwined knots of rope that pulls us together. Don't play tug of war with the family's rope of hope. My generation, remember these words of the Apostle Paul to the Corinthians. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, and is not jealous. Love does not brag and is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly, does not seek its own, does not provoke, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. But if there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away. If there are tongues, they will cease. If there is knowledge, it will be done away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will be done away. When I was a child, I used to speak as a child, think as a child, reason as a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall fully know. I shall know fully, just as I have also been fully known. But now abide faith, hope, love, these three. But the greatest of these is love. 1 Corinthians 13 chapter. My generation, don't know we're a family by our blood. Hold on to each other. Hold on to the rope of hope. Allude to continue the struggle. A successful result brought on by effort. That is an achievement. I will share a few achievements that have occurred within the family thus far. Holly Black Thomas has 5 kids: Robin, Lois, Harlan Jr., Bill, and Paul. On May 16, 1992, Harlan graduated from Northwestern Missouri State University with a BS in accounting. Her granddaughters, Caprice and Lacey, ages 8 and 9, run track for the Wilkie House Community Center. On June 21st, they took first place in the 4x100, beating 3 boys teams at the Amateur Athletic Union State Competition. Carol C. Patton, GDS, is married to Stephen A. Patton, MD. They have 3 kids: Catherine Elizabeth, Leslie Victoria, and Tommy James. Stephen was elected to be in the Who's Who among rising young Americans. Carol completed general practice residency in general dentistry. She was also chosen as a speaker at their conference. Their oldest daughter, Catherine, successfully completed the 1991-92 school year with all A's and 2 B's. Ricky D. Sims is married to Michelle Carter Sims. Ricky has 1 child, Ricky Don, who is 15. Michelle obtained her master's degree in the social sciences. Margaret T., occupational foods instructor at Winona Votech Center, has recently been selected Teacher of the Year by the Winona Public School System. She is a former teacher at the Jury Attention Center. She has 34 years teaching experience and is actively involved in the Mississippi Association of Vocational Educators and the Mississippi Association of Vocational Home Economics. She has been selected to serve on a committee of the National Association of Vocational Home Economics Teachers. That's about all my achievements. The rest of them are people with their kids. Ada M. Lucille has 2 kids, John Jr. and Nicole Lucille Stubbs. Terry Cooper Colquitt, DDS, is married to Horton Colquitt. They have 1 child, Jonathan Harrison Cooper Colquitt. Terry graduated from Meharry Medical College School of Dentistry. Clinton Teague is married to Margaret Teague. They have 2 kids, Lasagna and Derek. Sarah Teague Dickens is married to Kelsey Dickens Sr. They have 3 kids, Alfred Kelsey Jr. and Charlotte. Cassandra Booker has 3 kids, Corey, Kyler, and Angelia. Edwin Cooper is married to Brenda Cooper. They have 1 child. William A. Cooper, MD, has 1 child, Rachel M. Cooper. These are friends of the family. Juanita Watson is a friend of the family. She has 1 daughter, Betty Ella Watson. Her baby grandson, William Arthur Cooper, just graduated from medical school. Another grandchild, Katrina Conway, will graduate in August from the University of Tennessee. Homer Kivitz III is married to Donna Kivitz. They are friends of the family. They have 1 son, Homer Kivitz Port, age 13. Homer III owns his own restaurant, entering his 5th year in business. Donna successfully lobbied to get changes in Missouri's fair housing law. Homer IV's basketball team won their championship. Let us continue to strive to reach our dreams as we put forth efforts to achieve. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call upon Carol Patton. She has
What I'm going to do is they had me in the program for open floor comments. And what I thought I'd do is I'd open the floor for comments with a slide presentation that I got from the family. I solicited pictures, I think around May, and several family members gave me pictures. And where's my uncle? Thomas Cooper. He gave me a bunch, and I could not read his writing. So I don't know everybody on the picture. So I wanted him to kind of give me a hand, and I'm sure you can help me with them. But I'm going to have to set up, because some of them are pretty old snapshots. And also, Clinton Teague, I didn't see him. Oh, you can help me too. And then, where's Aunt Jewel? Right here. I'm sorry. So she can help. So I'm going to set up the projector, and the way that I'm going to open the floor for comments is I'm going to open the floor now and let you run it, Tori, while I set up the projector to see if anybody has any comments.
I had asked him to give some closing remarks. Fortunately, he could not be here with us. And before I call upon Roy Cooper Jr., I had my own closing remarks that I would like to make. I began this program with a poem entitled Immortality Confined to Mind. As the program progressed, those of you who are here, I hope that you all would have had the opportunity to analyze and fit into your mind a definition of what the poem is trying to say. And I repeat the poem for those of you who did not hear it at the beginning. Immortality confined to mind. Mortal man revenges his mortality by creating immortal ideas that ravish generation after generation after generation. Can you say that you have helped your brother, or have you killed him by creating a beast? I look out and I can't help but feel a sense of pride in the diversity of the audience of family members, guests, and friends present tonight. Here in this room, we have our own community, gathered together under family unity. Throughout this evening, you have heard the history of a people and a tribute to two wonderful people who dedicated their lives in creating and building up an idea of family unity, an idea which has become the foundation, the cornerstone of the family today. And how often do many of us forget that the bricks and the things that it took to build this foundation, the cornerstone, did not just fall into place. Somebody had to sacrifice and someone had to labor. Someone had to feed us hope in the midst of despair. Someone fed us pride in the midst of humiliation, fed us joy in times of sorrow with a mouthful of sunshine when darkness has starved so many. Now it is our turn to continue to build the family on up, to step back every now and then and take off our suit coats, roll up our sleeves, and get our hands dirty. No longer must we forget, and no longer must we sweep crumbs under the rug that we were once fed from, even if they're only but mere crumbs. Feed some of that joy, some of that pride, and some of that sunshine to one of your brothers. Can you say that you have helped your brother, or have you killed him by creating a beast? Immortality confined to mind. Ladies and gentlemen, ideas last for generations. But a foundation cannot be built unless the concept goes from the mind into action by virtue of hard work and sacrifice. Our past generations laid the foundation down for us. And now it is our turn to build it on up. What we have here is something great. But I must add that in a society as today, pieces may fall and crumble and chip away. And it's up to us, all of us, to take an active role in participating, sacrificing, or whatever it is, or take whatever measure it is necessary to continue to build this family on up. I had a little story I wanted to tell. I had a friend that is stationed with me on the USS Enterprise, and he asked me, he said, "Rush, how come you always walk around with a chip on your shoulder and got a smile on your face? I just don't understand." So I kind of chuckled and I said, "Well, bruh," I said, "when I wake up in the morning and look at my mirror, I stand 10 feet tall." And so I don't think he quite understood what I was getting at. So he was feeling down and out. He was going through a lot of marital problems. And his funds wasn't right, and I invited him over, to have a bite to eat, watch a movie or whatever. And he came over to the house, and we talked for a minute, and he just started crying because things were that bad. And I said, bruh, why don't you just get up and go take a look over in that mirror over there.